Didn't I say I wasn't going to buy any more Moondrop earbuds? Yeah, well, here we are. Today we're going to review Moondrop's Golden Age 2. Hello guys, welcome back, this is Jessy. There are really so many friends asking me about it, so at last I bought one to test. Let's see how it is. When I got the package, the box was literally split open. At first, I thought it was a shipping issue, but nope. They actually used a box that was about 5 cm tall to pack a product that was 6 cm tall. Like, seriously? That's kind of cheap. That said, to be fair, the packaging itself is actually really good looking this time. The outer sleeve features an 80s hand-drawn style. The Moondrop does really great at artwork, and also with the specs and frequency-responsive curve printed on the back. I'm not just nitpicking here, but I honestly didn't expect myself to complain about the paper used for the headphone packaging. The paper quality is pretty bad. Maybe that's intentional to match the retro vibe, but the friction is so strong that it's generally hard to slide the box open or put it back together. And inside, the box uses a classic top and bottom lid design. Once you open it, you'll see the charging case and a protective leather sleeve. Compared to the first generation's dark blue color theme, which was clearly a nod to Sony, the second generation switched to a light gray theme. The earbuds themselves are placed separately on both sides of the charging case, and there's even a pull tab underneath to help lift everything out. The whole unboxing feels very refined and well thought out. It actually gives you a nice experience. And here is all of the accessories and the design. The earbuds features a hand-drawn, comic-style retro open reel look with very detailed elements like the control panels and vintage circuit boards graphic clearly visible on the surface. Opening the charging case, you'll find handwriting L and R markings printed on the top of the earbuds. Compared to the previous generation, the microphone's placement has been adjusted. The touch panels are slightly raised, which makes touch inputs accurate and reliable, and overall latency is kept at a reasonable level. The nozzle is smartly designed to partially shield the top microphone, helping to reduce wind noise during the use. The earbuds themselves are still using the same old inherited shell design. The seam lines along the feet area are very obvious. And the earbuds are actually hard to take out of the case and put back in. You'll have to align them at a very specific angle for them to fit. If this were a $50 entry-level product, I'd probably just complain a bit and move on. But at a $90 price point, Golden Age 2's design issue feels just as retro as the name. Like they are both stuck in the past. So when are their designers just going to realize that if an earbud hurts to wear, then it's just bad, not to mention the sound? The noise cancelling on Golden Age 2 honestly surprised me as a very sound quality focused product. Even though it only uses single feed ANC, and even though the noise cancellation is clearly not on par with the most competitors at the same price, and even though it struggles a bit when it compares to some stronger new models at lower price point, overall, it's probably around average for the $50 range. That said, compared to the other Moondrop models, the noise cancellation here is actually good and is enough for most of the situations. The peak noise cancellation is at 39 dB with an average of 24 dB, and the active noise cancellation bandwidth goes up to 4 kHz. On Golden Age 2, the ANC doesn't create a super deep dip in the low frequencies, but the overall performance is really more evenly balanced and with fairly wide frequency coverage. In real-life use, it cuts roughly about 70% of the bass rumble. Around mid-range, it also delivers decent noise cancellation, bringing voices down by maybe about 40%. That said, there is a little bit too much inverse amplification in the high frequencies, which leads to noticeable ear pressure, and regular impact noises are reduced by around 30%. But the trade-off is a very tight seal in the ear. So in extremely noisy environment like the factories or the airplanes, the noise cancellation does start to struggle and doesn't quite hold up. And here is where I need to complain a bit. The wind noise cancellation is buried in the settings in the app, and it's generally hard to turn on. I stood in front of the blower and switching it on and off for a few minutes, and honestly, it feels like maybe it was working or maybe it wasn't. The difference was barely noticeable, and transparency mode, I think, really deserves some criticism. It still follows that boost mid-range approach. With most brands, this would basically be called a voice enhancement mode. It noticeably amplifies the voices and the ambient sound, and it also introduces quite a bit of the distortion. At this point, that feels more like a limitation of the current solution than a deliberate tuning choice. Overall, the ANC and transparency performance on Golden Age 2 is not particularly satisfying. The default pop tuning on Golden Age 2 largely follows the JM1. There is a noticeable reduction in the low end and the lower mids, which maybe from my subjectively listening reduces both overall the body and the low frequency impact. At the same time, there is more gain in the upper mids and highs, making the sound brighter and sharper. Overall, it comes across as a fairly balanced tuning, but one that leans slightly towards the upper mid-range presentation. On the other hand, the monitor mode is very different. The mid and the bass are noticeably controlled, while the treble are pushed even further. Overall, the tuning is more neutral and closer to a reference style presentation. The bass tuning is very much classic Moondrop. I can't really say it sounds bad, because if you like that signature, you probably enjoy it. And if you don't, you probably feel like this tuning just isn't meant for humans. The bass quantity is on the lighter side, with relatively low overall presence. The impact is very weak, with a thin and slightly brittle character. The sub-bass extension is shallow and the decay is very fast, and dynamics and ambience are somewhat limited. On the flip side, the soundstage is fairly wide. The mid-range sits a bit closer, with vocals presented more upfront and closer to the ear. In terms of the resolution, I'd say it can go head-to-head with the Earfree i5, though the note weight is more average and not as natural as on the i5. Texture is slightly emphasized. The chest resonance in vocals is on the thinner side, while the briskness is more pronounced. This tends to make the vocal timbres sound noticeably younger, and the sibilance control is very well handled. The treble on the Golden Age 2 is fairly bright, with a smooth and natural roll-off. I think the resolution and the density are among the top-tier options in this price range. Imaging is very clean and well-defined, with clear outlines, the strong separation, and excellent extension. The timbre leans elegant and slightly lush, making it especially well-suited for some small-scale string arrangement. In my opinion, even with the default pop tuning, the Golden Age 2 is still at a fairly solid level. It works especially well for the instrumental music and the chamber pieces. However, because of the lighter and less present bass, it's not a great match for more atmospheric genre like the hip-hop or the K-pop. The Golden Age 2 also introduced two music-related selling points this time. One of them is the LLM-based intelligent tuning assistant, and it generates an EQ profile through the AI that can be directly imported into the app. Personally, I'm not particularly into this feature, but it's something you can try out. Overall, I'd say the sound quality upgrades over the first generation is fairly normal. If you already like the experience of the original model, there is really no need to rush into the upgrading. Well, as Moondrop's flagship model, the Golden Age 2 does bring in quite a few relatively new features with this generation, including the AI tuning, wind noise cancellation, and the spatial audio and the wireless charging. However, many of the more basic optimizations are still handled poorly. The shell design hasn't been updated in ages, the transparency mode is very hard to use, and the software is extremely laggy. And even at a $90 price point, there is still no wear detection. On top of that, the real-world effectiveness of the wind noise reduction is somewhat questionable. So in the end, my overall impression is that the disappointment outweighed the surprise. So objectively speaking, while the sound quality is good, it doesn't justify such a high premium. And subjectively, I personally can't just get past the restrained and compressed bass presentation, so that isn't something I recommend. So alright, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Hope this video brings you some help. See you next time. Good one, Jessy.